Alright guys, you've got NAPLAN, so I am doing the demo this way. We're first going to start, we're going to do Aussie chicken parma and some best oven chips. You don't need to necessarily peel the potatoes, so giving them a good wash. We're going to cut this up. So we're going to make chunky chips. So I try and cut them on the lower side, if you see what I mean, like so they're flatter. So if I was to cut it that way, through there, you'd end up not being able to cut nice chunky chips. So and that one's a bit too chunky, so I'm going to cut that one in half. So you want to get them all about the same size. You don't want them too big, too small. And you're just going to put them on your tray. Okay. Probably about a centimetre or a centimetre and a half. So just your bigger ones, you're going to cut in half. If you cut too many too small, so just try and find the thinnest way, then some are going to burn and some are going to be cooked. So you want to make sure that they're cooked. That one's probably a bit small. They're all cut in half. You want to space them nice and evenly on the tray. It's the lovely sound of marking my roll. Slippery. So we're just going to spray these with canola and get them in the oven. So the first thing you've got to do is get these in the oven as quickly as possible because they're going to take a little while to cook. You want to preheat your oven for a little while, so as soon as you walk into the kitchen, get your oven on. You want to get your oven nice and hot. So 200 degrees on the oven. Sometimes soaking these too, so if you just soak them in water, get rid of the bit of the starch. So if you're doing that at home, I would soak them just to get some of the starch out, and they'll end up being a bit crispier if you do that. These would also go in an air fryer if you have an air fryer instead of an oven. I've done some very nice air fryer chips at home. It's a lot less fat involved in the cooking. So I'm going to make some chicken snitty. Alright, so I need some cooking spray, Mrs. Crook. I just need to spray them with cooking spray. We always do those first too because we don't want to use the tray. So I'm going to use 2 meat now, so that changes my tray. Make sure all of there's a bit of space in between each of your chips so the oven can get in there. And maybe halfway through your cook you want to turn them. Right, onto our schnitzel. With this. Salad. I would put a salad with it or some other veggies. Frying pan. With my red cutting. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do going to halve these down the middle like this. Okay, right down the centre. So turn them sideways, hand on top, and just an even cut all the way down. I'm going to get some cling wrap.
This is coming might grab some glad wrap. I've got glad wrap cutting board.
I need a rolling pin to bash my chicken. So we're going to get some cling wrap. Enough to cover our chicken. This is the best way to smack your chicken and not have it fall apart. So if you don't put the glad wrap on, cling wrap on, take that over the top. There we go. So we're just going to fold on the top. So I'm going to use my rolling pin to give this a whack. I'm just going to make them a bit thinner because these are a bit thick and you want your snitty to cook reasonably. It's the thinner your chicken. You want it to be even, so you want to get rid of like these big lumps of chicken. Like how a chicken is thicker in spots. We don't want any area that's too thick. Alright, so it's pretty good. So chicken is all the same. So you want to see how it's all now all the same thickness. Pop them back on their plate. Get rid of it. Okay, so we're going to get bowls. So you can get some bowls from other parts of the world. So the bowl from the egg. I'm just going to get plates. Oh, could you just grab me 2 dinner plates, please? For our eggs. And so this is for a crumbing, so a crumb. So I also need a couple of eggs. There's no eggs in this. So we're going to add eggs. I don't know why there's no eggs. For some reason I've left out the eggs there. So there should be 2 eggs. As we bring it in, we go flour, egg, breadcrumbs. What you want. So you can grab plates out of the stairs cupboard to do this. And this is the messy part. I'm going to put flour. These will boil out. I go about half a cup. Half a cup, 3/4 of a cup of flour, quite heaped. And breadcrumbs. Now you can use any kinds of breadcrumbs, Paco, doesn't matter what. I quite like the Paco ones, but these ones are just your regular ones. Oh, we're going to do a mix. I'm going to show you how to do a mix of breadcrumbs. So we're going to do like regular breadcrumbs and then a bit of the Paco because it just gives it a nice texture. So adjust your recipe to match. Oh, if I can get the bag open. Like, has it been resealed, has it? Oh, it has. I thought it was just because it's got a sealer of its own. Alright, so I'm going to put on just a bit of that. So I'm just going to mix those together. Right, so what we do, we're going to mix up our eggs. You can do this. This is any kind of crumbing, or in some places it's called breading. So we're just going to mix our eggs up like this. And we're going to go. And then into the egg. So make sure you fully cover it in the flour. Get it totally submerged in the egg. Let it run off a bit. Don't let it be really grubby with the egg. and then onto the breadcrumbs, and just get all those breadcrumbs sticking to the egg. You want a nice covering, but you still want to still be able to see the chicken through it. So let me just keep going. So bread, go into the egg. A flatter bowl would be useful, but that's okay. You don't have any. So, my breadcrumbs again. I might need a few more breadcrumbs. Eggs. So just make sure you get it started all the way. Go. You get a little bit grubby. Egg. I'm going to heat up my pan. Not the healthiest of meals, this one, but it's truly an Aussie favourite. So there, might need to put just a little bit more breadcrumb on there. It's a bit of a messy job, but so worth it. And hand crumbed, hand breaded just is the way to go. So you just want to get all of that flour stuck. So you really want it fully covered. You don't want to see any part of your chicken. You want to make sure your chicken is really covered right inside there, and then really covering the egg. Dippity dip. Bit of it there. Make sure you've covered that it's all wet. I'll let it run off for a minute. And then into the breadcrumbs. Get stuck on there. So get as much of that breadcrumb on there as you can. Alright, there we go. So that is our breading or hand crumbing. And of course your hands look like that. Definitely one where you can't do rings. Or you'll end up with mucky fingers. I have tried many ways to not have mucky fingers, but you're going to end up with mucky fingers. Next bit of a mess. Just keep that a while before I keep going. Try and keep things clean and tidy. All right. Okay, so we're going to put olive oil in here. Just a reasonable amount of it, about a quarter cup. Okay, I'm going to let that get nice and warm, and then we're going to cook our pig. You may need to add a little bit more oil. Okay. And then we're going to make a sauce to go on top. So we're going to cook these off. You don't want to cook them completely and totally and fully, because we're going to put them in the oven after we're done. Another way to do it would be to leave them in there and put the lid on, like to top them, put them back in and put the lid on. That's nice and hot now. I'm going to get 3 pieces in there. Okay, we're going to cook them off. So once we've cooked these, we're going to then use the same pan to do our topping. While we're waiting, so we're going to put some mozzarella and some Parmesan cheese together in a bowl. You might just use a jar. So mozzarella, how much? 125 grams. Right, a bit more. We're going to let that cook until to raw, and then we're going to use Parmesan cheese. Can't be a palmy without Parmesan cheese. You could also put ham on this, so that would be your other option. Put ham in between the tomato and the mozzarella. I haven't used that yet. Sauce. Alright, so I'm going to, instead of using tongs, I'm actually going to use my egg flip to turn these guys. So just wait until you get a nice brown on that side pretty starting, and then turn it. See how nice and brown it is? There we go. So that's our cheese ready to go. I'm going to crush my garlic. Crush that. So remember how to do. I'm going to use my other knife. I haven't used for chicken. I'm just going to take these off. I'm just going to peel those. Just take off your skin. Ah! Never ever wants to come off properly. It's going in there. Take it off the bench. Just cut that little end off. Alright, into the garlic press. I'll just wait until I can crush it into there. We don't want to overcook our chicken, or else we'll end up with dry, nasty chicken. So you're just going to get a bit of a wiggle out of it. It'll be firmer when it's cooked properly. And then we're going to get another baking tray. I'm going to put a bit of baking tray, a bit of oil, just to pop our chicken onto. Alcohol will help with the cooking process. This one does not have a cutter on it. I hate it. So we're just going to cover the whole bread. Breakfast. Alright, so we're going to take this one out because it's done. And put a little bit more oil in because we've soaked it all up. And we're going to put it up. Fill up your glasses. Some of the stuff away. Just while that's cooking, I'm going to clean up a tiny bit. A bit of a fancy one. You could just put the passata on. This is just pureed. It's just pureed tomatoes, okay? So we're going to zhuzh it up a little bit by adding in some basil, some fresh basil, some oregano, some salt, and some white wine. So, right, that one's done. That one there. That one's done. Should be able to fit all 4 of them on here. Like that. Just going to let that one cook a little bit longer. So how much custard do I need? I need 500 ml. So this is 680. So I don't need quite all of that. But it's 2 cups. Quite a bit. Okay. Start with this one. Alright. So I'm just going to pick off my leaves. This will give it that lovely Italian flavour. We're almost there with this one. I want to make sure it's fully cooked though. Just need a tiny little bit more oil. This is Brooke and I getting a nice lunch today. This is a little less complicated than last week's cook. I'm a bit sad we didn't get to do the proper cook. So we're just going to rip these up. We're not going to even cut them really. We're just going to rip them up. They will wilt when they're in. That's got a good colour to it. You don't want to burn it. It's going in the oven for a little while, so we're going to get our garlic in. So that garlic, just move it around, squish again. Alright, all crushed. Gonna make that fragrant. We've got little bits of the stuff in there, which is fine. Put our custard in. I'm going to turn the temp down a bit. I'm going to get my white wine. Only 125 ml of white wine. So half a cup. Just give it a bit of extra flavour. Basil in, and my oregano, teaspoon of oregano, teaspoon of oregano, a little bit of pepper, and then salt. Got a lot of sea salt. A couple of grinds, and then mix it all. Just let that boil for a few minutes. So that all the flavours infuse. I've got it at about medium. We've got so much basil outside, I'm going to use it up. So just clean up a little bit while it's boiling. Alright. Okay, so bring this a bit closer. So what we're going to do is we're going to put the tomato mix on here. We'll do some ladling thing. Okay, that's pretty good. You don't need to cook it for too long. Get it as close as possible. We're going to put tomato there. Decent amount because it's going to soak in. Really nice tomato sauce. I'm going to cover up the chicken. It'll come off a little bit, it will bubble. It will soak into the bread. So a little bit left over, and then we're going to put our cheese mixture on top. happy with that. Now I've done this a bit quicker. My chips are definitely not going to be done in time. But those are going to go, I might move. Hopefully by the time my chicken is done, my chips will be done. So you want this to get bubbly and round on top. Right, done. So just going to pour. This is the final product of the Snitty, slightly overdone because I forgot it was in the oven.